Hello and welcome to Back Pain Movement. I'm your host, Simon Schmid. My guest today is Erdi Babili, a 27 years young personal trainer living in London. You are the owner and head coach of Learning-to-Human, founded this year. The goal is to help people experience freedom to an online coaching service using movement and nutritional guidance to develop strength, mobility, balance, and aesthetics. Since 2013, you immerse yourself in high-quality courses, workshops, and teaching. As a result, you have developed a very broad and detailed knowledge in regards to body composition, movement, mobility, and gymnastic strength training. So, Erdi, welcome to Back Pain Movement.
Hey Simon, thanks man. I'm happy to be here to contribute.
Yeah, thank you so much that you're taking your time. It's amazing to have you here in my show as a guest. So normally I start my my conversations just by asking people, what do you know about Switzerland? Do you have any image about this country?
So I've been to Switzerland twice, or three times. So I think the first two was with a skiing trip where with my sixth form, we say. So I was 18 years old at school. And it was my first experience skiing, and I loved it. I actually really enjoyed it. I never invested the time to go back to it for the skiing, because it's always been a relatively expensive trip, and there's been other trips which have come up in the years. But I did very much enjoy it. It was a great sport. And that was my main exposure to Switzerland was the snow and the skiing.
Great. So and now, would you consider you as a good skier, or have you kept it on?
A good skier. I think I very slowly did one black route
Okay.
when I was 18 or 19. And that for me was great fun. And I learned how to, what's it called? Is it like drift, but with the skis? I forgot the term.
Yeah.
But I learned how to do this, and that was like a really good learning point for me. But I wouldn't say I was a good skier, and I haven't done it since. So it's been 10 years since I last did it. But one day I'll definitely like to do it again.
Great. Yeah, I also love the mountains and the snow, but myself, I wasn't skiing for a couple of years, so probably would have to try it out also again.
Nice.
So, of course, I'm really interested in your story and also in the topic of back pain. So, what pops into your mind when you hear the term back pain?
Oh man, back pain. It's so like there's two things that pop into my mind. One is it's so complex. Like back pain is just so complicated because everyone's back pain seems to be relatively different. I'm sure you have the same situations where there'll be people experiencing back pain for roughly the same reason, and you need roughly the same fix, maybe. Um, and but generally, it's very broad in terms of the individuals have the pain for different reasons. And the second thing which comes to my mind is imbalance. There is an imbalance not in necessarily muscles, which I mean it could be the reason, but an imbalance in the lifestyle. So this person isn't, in my opinion, living a life which is balanced enough for them to be living pain-free. There's some factor involved which is affecting them and is causing this pain for them.
Yeah, interesting. It's like also what I found myself as I suffered myself from back pain. I totally can agree on that there is a need for a balance in your life. Otherwise, your body is giving you signals that something isn't in the right order. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely agree.
So I know yourself you had back pain. So what's your story? How was it? How did you overcome your back pain?
Good question. So I used to be a gamer. I used to play games religiously. I mean, I'm talking in the summers, I would spend like 12, 14, up to 16 hours a day in front of the computer, in like either like lying down on my side playing these games, or sitting in my chair, which, just some random computer chair. It wasn't even one of the good ones, it was just a random chair. I think it was from the kitchen, playing these games on the computer. And it was fine in my younger teen years. So this was like from 15 years onwards. But then when I started getting into about 21, 22, is when I started noticing that if I sat down for too long, my back would start to hurt, and at this age, I wasn't playing as much because I was at university, but there was still times where I was playing, especially in the holidays from university. And yeah, this would be really, it would be unusual for me because I wasn't used to getting pains. So I was like, why is my back hurting? And it just happened when I'd sit down for too long. And then when I also started my movement journey. I say movement journey, I mean, I started training a bit more structured, with a bit more structure and rigorousness when I was about the same age, 23, 24. And this is when I first started to feel my back pain even more. And it was actually when I was stretching my hamstrings, and I just had this twitch one day, and there was a really bad twitch, and all of a sudden, like, I was out for like a few days. I couldn't walk. I couldn't like move around very well. I had to stay in bed for most of it, or just walk very slowly and move very slowly. It was very unusual for me because I'd never had like an injury like this before. And then what happened was, for the next 3 to 4 years, this would happen like every year, once or twice a year. And I couldn't figure it out. It's like, something's wrong, there's an imbalance somewhere. Something's not right. When I sit down for too long, my back hurts. When I bend backwards, my back hurts. And every now and then when I stretch my hamstrings, my back will twitch and twinge, and it would just give way, and something won't work for something's gonna causes this big problem for a few days. This was my experience with the pain for this many years, and then it was actually this year. It was the second from last time that this twinge happened. It was last year. I was like, I got to do something about this. Let me do some research. And I found, I don't know if you've heard of this guy's name. His name is Kit Laughlin.
No,
he's like this stretch, I want to say therapist. I'll type it for you if you want to. KIT and then LAUGHLIN. Kit Laughlin. So he's one of the names that come up when you start researching mobility. So if you're into your mobility and your mobility training, which is very common in gymnastic strength training, which is what I teach to my students, you will hear this name because this guy is like the wizard. He's the guru at making people more flexible. He's been known to help people that can't do the splits. He can like keep repositioning their body and retuning little parts of their body, and eventually he can put them into the splits into his workshops. It's nuts, which is like, it's unheard of. You don't get this, like, magic, and like not without any force or any pressure or any torture like sometimes you can see on these videos. But he's very knowledgeable. Anyway, I found his videos, and he has a series on Vimeo, and it's called, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's about back pain and stretches specifically for back pain. So I found these videos, and I was like, there's like 15 or 14 different videos, and you have to try all the stretches, and he's very delicate about how to do them, very precise. And then I got to one stretch in particular, so I tried them all. This was when I was immobile from the back pain. Like, it was one of these times of this 2 to 3 to 4 day period where I couldn't move. And I tried this one stretch, and it was specifically for the hip flexors. And all of a sudden, the pain just eased off. Like, I felt instant relief, so it was like, oh, this is interesting. And then about 5 minutes later, the pain came back. I was like, okay. And I tried it again. And again, I had instant relief for a few minutes. And then so many minutes later, it came back again. And then I just kept doing this stretch. I did it for like 5, 6, 7, 8 times in the day for about 1 to 2 minutes at a time. And the next day I woke up, I was pain-free. Like the pain just disappeared. I was like,
Amazing.
okay, so there's a link. Yeah, it was amazing. It was such a huge relief. When you're training so much and then all of a sudden you're out of training for so many days because you can't move, it's demoralizing. So this day I wake up and I'm pain-free, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. This is great. So I went about my business. I never came back to these stretches. And then a year later, the same thing happened. I had this bad twinge. I was like, oh, okay, well, now I know what to do to fix it. I'll just do it. And I did the same thing. I stretched my hip flexors, and again, the pain went away. This time it didn't last as long because I had a bit more knowledge of why it was specific to my problem. Anyway, since then, I was like, I have to do something more long-term for this. I can't just keep using it as a quick fix pill. It doesn't work. So I invested my time into developing the front splits, which is a type of splits. It's with your one leg out in front of you, one leg back behind you, and I haven't mastered it yet, but I've started learning to reaching towards it. And since then, what this involves, it involves you stretching your hip flexors to a much higher degree. And anyway, since I've started investing my time, like 1 to 2 times a week into this movement, I've been pain-free. I can move back, no problem. I'm not getting any more twinges. I can contract my lower back and I don't get any issues. I can sit down now for like, a good half of the day and I won't have any problems with my lower back. Maybe longer, but I don't like to because I need to move. So this was my main story with my back pain. I just had tight thighs, tight quads, tight hip flexors, and this was my specific thing to me. It's not the answer to back pain, but it was my answer for my issue, and I'm glad I found it.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, totally happy for you, as I can understand how it feels. I also had like lower back pain, and it's, as you said, that's totally true. Everybody is different. Every pain is different. Everybody reacts different to different exercises. So I think that's an important point you mentioned. You have to get in touch again with your body and find out yourself what's the right solution to your particular body. I think that's really important to notice.
Yeah, definitely agree.
And now, when you work with clients, what's your approach to find out their specific, particular individual needs?
Good question. So, with clients, are you referring to back pain specifically, or
yeah, you can open up the field as you want.
Okay, so I don't consider myself a back pain specialist or anything. I mean, I've had it myself, and I've managed to find out what I need and which nourishment I need for myself, and that's great. But I haven't done any courses specifically on back pain, or even gone to any seminars or workshops which are specific to back pain. But what I have had is, because of the experience with the back pain, and I've had a lot of the clients that have come to me who have also had this back pain experience, what I've managed to figure out is how to work around it sometimes. So usually my clients, they'll never come to me in this, because I'm just a personal trainer in London. I don't have people actually approach me and say, hey, I need you to help me fix my back pain. They usually come and say, hey, I want to lose some weight, or hey, I want to build some muscle, or hey, I want to get a bit stronger. So, okay, cool. And when we're training, I realize, oh, wait, we can't do this and this and this movement because your back's hurting. So we're going to have to work around it. But out of curiosity, because I do get very curious and I do like to try and solve puzzles and problems, and I won't make the session based on their pain, but or figuring out their pain, but I will spend some time at the beginning in their warm-up or at the end to try and see what's going on and say, okay, look, can you flex forward for me? Does it hurt? Can you flex back for me? Does it hurt? Can you hang on the bar? Is it hurting? Can you deadlift in this position? Does it hurt? And I'll experiment with different movements. what I've noticed is there's usually two main like positions which will hurt for some people and won't hurt for others. So I've got this one student, when her back pain will hurt more when she extends the spine, so when she like bends backwards, right? So if she pushes her hips forwards and she contracts her lower back, this is when her back pain will hurt, or when she'll experience it. And the same for this is the issue that I had, and the same for a few of my other students. Whereas I have a couple others who are the opposite. It's when they flex the spine, so when they bend forward is when their lower back will hurt, whereas they can bend back as much as possible. Now, from what I've seen, it's usually the people that can flex forward. The ones that can't flex forward. So the ones that can't bend forward without pain are usually the ones that need to strengthen their lower back. So they usually have issues with the erector spinae and spinae, and they need to be a bit stronger, because when I get them on the floor and I make them do these core movements, like the Superman holds or the arch body holds or rocks, like for in gymnastics, or hyperextensions for the glutes and that lower back, usually this will make them feel better. It won't fix anything, but it will improve the situation. And the opposites for the other people, so the ones who like me and like one of my students, who when she pushes her hips forward and she contracts her lower back and she gets pain, usually these people are immobile in the hips, or they have tight hips usually. Again, it's not guaranteed, but these are just two of the coincidences that I've happened to see over the last 3 years I've been a trainer. So I will usually play around with these and do my best to help. I won't, again, because I haven't done any courses or any specific learning, I won't invest too much time into it because it's not my area.
Yeah.
But I will base the workouts around these two parameters, these two pathways, and usually I see improvements. And yeah, just generally from getting them stronger and moving more, we'll see improvements as well. Yeah.
Interesting. You're the first who is telling me that observation. Yeah. And good to know. Interesting. So I also remarked that a lot of people are thinking when they go to gym or when they do some practice once or twice a week with a personal trainer, for example, they think they can fix their problems. And as we mentioned earlier, probably there is a bigger imbalance in their life. So how do you approach this problem?
This one's really hard. This one's really, really hard because it's so hard to get into somebody's head, and I don't see myself as a motivator. I'm the guy with knowledge. I'm the guy that has information. I'm the guy that will put you through a good session, and I'll show you what you need to do specifically for you, for the goals that you want. But I will not be the person that will motivate you outside these sessions. I'll send messages to my clients and for like checkups and say, hey, how's your food today, etc. But I'm not the same guy that will like drill into them every day. And some people, they can just instill this passion of training into people, and you just want to train every day because you see this guy training. He might not even have a good plan for you or anything, but he's the Mr. Motivator, It's like, oh yeah, you get really fired up. I'm not that guy, so I find this difficult to do. So usually the clients that I get, usually they are already people that are self-motivated most of the time. They're not the ones that need this extra motivation. And the ones that do need the extra motivation, they don't usually end up staying with me for very long because they don't get the benefits. They might, they'll get the benefit of during the session, and if they follow the plan for a couple of months or whatever, then again they might get some benefit. But if they don't, and they don't have that motivation, they won't get the benefit and they won't stay with me for long. Whereas some of my clients, they've been with me for 2 or 3 years because they are already self-motivated and they'll do the work outside the sessions and stuff. But I do find that very difficult because you're right. The sessions, they're not enough. Like 2 hours of movement in a however many hour week that you've got, it's just not enough. It's not going to fix your problems. It's going to expose you to ideas and concepts and methods, but it's not going to fix anything. And this, I do tell them this when during the consultation. I let them know, and I make them very aware that they have to put in the work outside of sessions, because them sessions are there mainly for information, for guidance, so that they know what they need to be doing, because otherwise it's just not enough time. Sometimes you get the one-off person who will do like 4 sessions a week with you, and this can be good, because especially if they're trying to build muscle or something like this, or lose fat, with 4 hours a week you can do a lot more than 1 or 2 hours a week. But again, if you're trying to fix a bigger issue, it's not enough. And usually I find the people that come to the gym are usually the people with the biggest issues anyway, because they feel like they need the gym. It's like if you've got quite overweight, and usually there's been a problem in your life to cause this, and now you need to try and fix it with this artificial remedy, which is the gym. Whereas so many years ago, like, the level of obesity was so much lower, but look how many gyms were there. There were no gyms. People just had themselves, and they had maybe the park or the gardens or the roads and the forests and the jungles. They didn't have the gyms, but they didn't have the problems either. So it's an interesting one. It's a tough one to do, but yeah, motivation isn't my forte. It's information.
Yeah, but thanks for sharing. I'm always wondering, because from time to time I see it myself. It's not always easy to stick to your plan, right?
So definitely not.
But I think it would be, I am interested to know more about your project, Learning to Human. Can you tell us something about it?
Yeah. I was sitting with my girlfriend one night, and we decided a while before we wanted to be remote. We want to get online. We want to help more people with less time. Like, personal training is great. One-to-one sessions, fine, but that's 1 hour for one person, and they probably need a couple of hours a week. But with 1 hour, you could probably help a lot more people instead of just one. So we're sitting down, we're brainstorming, we're trying to develop a website, and I just put in like a random collection of words for the website title, so that we could just move on to the next bit. And I just come to my head, I just put Learning to Human. And then we came back to it once we were done some more bits, and we're like, actually, I don't really want to change this. I quite like this name.
I like it too.
Yeah, I really liked it. And I was like, I want to keep this. Where it stems from, I think, as a society, we've grown so distant from instincts. We turn our instincts off, and we live in situations which don't allow our instincts to stimulate or to generate. So I don't know, like, you wake up, if we were trying to compare ourselves to an actual real human as an animal from so many thousands of years ago, they'd probably wake up and they'd probably find some water or something to drink nearby, and then they might go for a hunt or a gathering session for breakfast with their family, or maybe they're relocating somewhere with their family, or they're moving, they're walking, they're climbing, they're doing something for survival. Whereas now we wake up and we go to the fridge and it's all there. Everything we need is there. The coffee machine is there. The microwave is there. The fridge is there. And the fridge is full of the food which we ordered online from Sainsbury's or Tesco's or whatever, which we didn't even have to fill. We didn't touch this food. We didn't see this food or smell it. It just came in these packages. And we've grown distant from these instincts of having to hunt or having to be alert or be aware. When we walk outside on the streets, we should be aware of what's happening. We're not. We're on our phone. We're checking Facebook. We're checking emails, Instagram, Twitter. When we're commuting, it's not on the back of a horse, or it's not by foot. It's on public commute, where again you can check your Twitter and your Facebook and your emails, and maybe if you're fortunate, you'd be reading a book. or maybe listening to a podcast like this one. This is what I usually do when I'm commuting. So this realization that this is what's happening around us, and people aren't listening to their instincts anymore. This is quite depressing almost when you see it so much, and when you see it from your students so much. That's even worse. Your clients and just people on the street. You see it all the time. People don't play anymore. They don't hang anymore. They don't squat anymore. But you see children do the opposite. So children, like, yeah, I suppose I could learn into child, learn into children. But humans better, because it's who we're supposed to be. But in children, you see this all the time. You see them as a human. You see them as an animal. Children are not developed yet from society's expectations and justifications. Children are still their prime version, almost prime versions of humans. Most of them, or a lot of them. You don't usually see an obese child. You don't usually see like a dysfunctional child that can't hang on a branch or a tree, or can't jump, you tell an adult to jump and he's like, what for? You tell a child to jump and he'll jump straight away. It's like, how high? Where am I going? It's great. So this is, I like to see how these children, they move, and how free they are in their movement, and how they can go anywhere. You can take like a child to any environment, usually, unless it's the water. The water's a trickier one, because usually we need to learn how to be in the water, and as a child you can learn quicker. But anyway, but any environment, you take them to the forest, take them up a big hill, up into the park, any terrain, and their ankles will be fine, their knees will be fine, they'll be able to move, they'll be able to climb, etc., and they're okay. But you say to an adult, hey, let's take the shortcut through this grass, this long grass. Mm-hmm. Like, no, I'm not wearing the right shoes. Or you say, let's climb this fence. Like, oh no, I'm wearing a skirt. Or, oh no, you silly, I'm going to fall over. It's like, excuse me, you're an animal. Why? You're not a robot. You don't need to have these specific prerequisites to do animalistic movements or to human movements. Or you say, hang on this bar, and they're like, but I'm going to get sweaty, or my hands are going to hurt. And it frustrates me. So, sorry, I get quite into it. Anyway, so I developed Learning to Human because I want to develop this platform and this realization for people that they can start being like more animalistic, and it's okay because they're supposed to be, because they're born to be, because they have the bone structures to be these animals that we used to be, that their children are. This is sort of what Learning to Human derives from, and it's also being aware now that we are living in an environment that's always against our instincts of being human. We're living in this environment which is trying to take these things away. So if we can learn that we are in this position, then we can be more aware of it. And we can be more aware that we should take the shortcut over the fence, or we should walk on the cobbles, or walk through the long grass, or climb or hang on the tube. When you're in London, you're going to work, hang on the bars. It's going to benefit that could even benefit your back pain quite massively. So do these things, rotate, twist, jump, climb, run, do all of it, but be aware that you're not doing it so that you can do it more, if this makes sense. So this is kind of what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I see this myself, and I move around with the daughter of my girlfriend, and it's just, as you said, they're just doing not having their brain in their way, so just moving around, jumping, running, falling, standing up again, and that's why I love to play with her. It's so much fun. So, and it's also, it's just when I'm doing this movement, it's like I'm connecting again with my body, and that fulfills me. That makes me happy. Yeah. So I probably just a short story that pops into my mind. Last weekend I was in London, and I was just doing, because I had to wait to a friend. I was doing like a squatting routine of mine. I've seen or learned from Ido Portal, and I was just like, my normal clothes and there on the street and was doing that, and, and the man was passing by, and then he stopped and came back and was looking at me like I was, like I would be crazy or something like this, and was taking a picture of me. And then I said, it's funny, right? And what are you doing there? And I was just telling a short story, and then he kept on going. Yeah. So it's also interesting to see the reaction of the people when you're moving around.
Yeah, definitely agree. The interesting thing about it is, as an individual, you look like a crazy person. But when you have a group of people doing it, then you look like an organized, structural exercise group, where, this is actually something I could do. I could join in with this. This might benefit me. But you see one person doing it, and it's like, who is this person? This guy's crazy. I find that bit also very interesting. But yeah, you do get a lot of interesting reactions just from hanging on the tube, like I was saying, or squatting. I was squatting so when we go to the shopping with my girlfriend, and she likes to go into the women's clothes shops, and I don't want to go in there, so I wait outside, and I'm just squatting outside by the shop. And I remember some man made some interesting remark once. I wasn't even doing any unusual movement. I was just sitting there in my squat. And he was like, I think he said, "Do you need some toilet paper?" or something like this. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like he thought, I was going to, anyway. But so it's just interesting how that, people, they try and make fun of this situation, or they try and understand it. But I agree. Yeah, the reactions are priceless sometimes. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, it's absolutely funny. So, yeah, thanks for these explanations, and it's interesting, and I'm absolutely sure that's going to be a success and a help for a lot of people. Your project, Learning to Human, and as I said, I love the title because we are all humans, and I think a lot of us have forgotten that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
So I also know that you have some expertise in food. So can you probably tell us something how this relates to movement and how food is influencing our health?
Yeah. This is interesting. So this can get really, obviously, very complex and different, very individualized. I'm a very personable person. I like to individualize everything to the person. So generally with a good context, and I know what the individual wants, I can give them a good recommendation. But like from a generic perspective, so if we look at having look at training, when we look at training, it's quite unnatural. I mean, whether or not it's movement, I mean, even if you're on the gymnastic rings, or if you're doing weightlifting or whatever, you're doing these sets and you're doing these reps, right? And it's unnatural because we never really did this. We didn't really do things for sets and reps and for these training stimulus. We just, we used to just do things. It would be for work. It would be for gardening. It would be for building something, or it'd be for your hunting or whatever, for so many years ago. But I don't think people would, sit down and say, okay, I'm going to do my German volume training, 10 sets of 10 on my chin-ups and my dips or whatever. Now, because of this, these training methods and modalities, we also need to adjust the nutrition. So if usually based on somebody's training will be based on how they should also eat. I mean, you've got healthy eating in general. Everyone knows, processed foods aren't as good, packaged foods aren't as good. Try and eat your raw organic ingredients, your fruit, your vegetables, your seeds, your meats. I'm a big fan of meat, by the way. I don't have anything against the vegetarian diets or vegan diets, and I know they are very common in these holistic approaches and practices. I have a few students who also are vegan or vegetarian, and I work around them with supplementation to help, because they do train and they do become deficient in certain things. But we know these healthy foods, but then how does it change? How does it adjust depending on what you're doing, what you're moving, and where you live as well? So Charles Poliquin, a strength coach I did a seminar with once, he predicts your carbohydrate intake he estimates your carbohydrate intake, or what it should be, based on your geographical location from the equator. So the closer you live to the equator, right, the more carbohydrates technically you should be having, because these are countries like Central Africa, or certain parts of Asia. They had rice fields, they had cornfields. I'm not too sure on the exact crops, but they had lots of carbohydrate-based foods, plantain, etc., in the tropics. So these people, they thrive on like high carbohydrate intake foods. So like up to 80%, I think some of the examples he was given, 80% carbs, and then the rest protein and very minimal fats. Whereas you take the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Now go as far away from the equator as you can. What you have, you've got the Inuit people in the Antarctic or Antarctica, up north. And what did they eat? They eat seal blubber. They eat fat. They don't have very high fat, very low protein. Their carbohydrates are almost non-existent. So this is another way you can individualize your nutrition, right? Where are my roots? Where am I from? Oh, I'm from China. Okay, I'm going to have a lot more rice. I don't need as many fats. I'm from the Mediterranean. Generally, I can get away with my carbs, but it's also quite a high fatty diet there as well. So I can do this. This is how I would look at individualization. Well, this is one of the aspects I would use. Also, the amount of training you're doing. Are you doing a lot of training? Cool. You probably need some extra carbohydrates, because chances are you're burning a lot more fuel. Yes, you can do it on a high-fat diet, but it's not as efficient. The fats will never fuel you as efficiently for a longer training bouts compared to carbohydrates. It doesn't mean to cut out the fats. It just means increase your carbohydrate intake. And then you have just the people that want to be healthy. People who have like normal movement lifestyles, where they're active, they're in their day-to-day, they go out with their children, maybe they go on a hike, maybe they do some cycling, and they're just living these average human lives, and being relatively active. And for these people, okay, does it really matter if you're having 50% carbs or 80 or like 55 or 60? Is it has to be so specific? No, you eat like your general, like we were saying, the healthier foods, like the non-processed stuff. You have your good local grass-fed meats, or you have your wild caught fish, you have your organic vegetables that don't have all the pesticides, etc. And generally you should be okay. You won't notice any weight gain, because you're not really eating these processed foods that are designed to cause addiction. Your hormones are in relative balance. When your hormones are in relative balance, then generally you eat relatively well, and you can make these more instinctive based decisions. When it comes to nutrition and back pain, though, it gets a bit more complicated from my realization. You need to be more in tune with which foods cause inflammation. So everyone usually will have different intolerances. So with me, for example, I'm very intolerant to dairy, and I've had some tests done to confirm it as well. If I have too much dairy, my stomach, it will bloat. I have bad gut problems. I just know. Now, what happens when your body's when this is happening is your gut specifically is inflamed. Now, you've given it a food it can't handle, and now it's reacting. So now what happens if you have pains in other areas of the body? Now your body's trying to deal with two pains at the same time. It's trying to deal with your inflammation in your gut, and it's trying to deal with your inflammation in your lower back and whichever other imbalances you have in your lifestyle. So generally your back pain isn't going to recover as well, and it's not going to get the attention it deserves. So it's not necessarily, you should eat this type of cabbage for your back pain. It's more so, don't eat the foods that affect you negatively. If you're experiencing difficulties, with injuries or pains and stuff like this, be very aware with which foods have these negative issues on your body and in your body and on your mind, so that you can keep them away from you while being in pain. Also, just one more very important point: if you do have an injury, you shouldn't really be in a calorie deficit. meaning you shouldn't be trying to like lose body fat so rapidly. You should be in either like a maintenance or a surplus of calories, because again, your body needs the energy from the food to deal with the problems. This is one thing I've come to realize as well. And yeah, you have your anti-inflammatory foods. You do have, your vegetables, your antioxidants, some foods which will benefit some inflammation. But from my experience, like I've never eaten a certain type of food and been like, oh, that's really helped with my pain. That hasn't really happened to me. It's happened with a couple of supplements, but not with a food in particular. But you do know when a food makes you feel bad.
Yeah, but I think I agree with you. But there's again the situation we have with awareness. I'm not so sure how many people could actually really say this or that food is influencing me in a negative way. I think it's just a thought or a guess that I have. But I think it is not so easy.
Definitely not. I agree. There's a lot of people that say, hey, just listen to your body. Listen to your body. Like, what do you mean listen to my body? It's doing different things every day. It can be difficult to listen to your body and to find these things out. You're absolutely right. What does make it easier is if you're in a routine and you're having relatively the same meals on a day-to-day basis, and let's say you're not experiencing any problems. Like I have my go-to meals, I have my butcher where I get my meats and I know which meat I'm getting and I know which vegetables I'm getting. I'm quite boring with my meals. Like I have the same thing most of the time, every week. It'll be different meals, but every week I know roughly what I'm eating. So now usually when you have this routine, and if you go off your routine and you have a different type of food and you're like, okay, I don't feel good today. What did I eat yesterday? You look, and then that's what makes it easier. But you're right. If you don't have like a routine or a schedule or something that you're sticking to, it can be very, very difficult to figure out which foods or which activities or which relationships are affecting your health. Yeah, but I do understand what you're saying. And if you do have, I suppose it's something it could be worth doing. If you do have injuries and issues like back pain, it might be worth just keeping a log of the extremity of your back pain. So let's say 2 logs, one for back pain, and you've got a number 1 to 10. And every day you'll mark which number is your back pain. And the other log is your food log. So which foods have you eaten today? Now you can look at, I'm not saying this is definitely the reason, and food's definitely the reason for the pain, but it's just an extra little gauge you can do. And then on a day, let's say you've got 10 on your back pain, or you got 9 or 8, so it's very high. You say, okay, what did I eat for yesterday? Again, it's not 100%. There might even be a longer log, and it's not going to be a very direct comparison, but it's an idea of how you can start measuring things if it's an issue for you and you want to look into it into more detail. But the best thing you can do is take a food intolerance test and save yourself money, save yourself time, and just figure out, see which tests do it for you, which foods that are causing the problems. But you have to go to very good reputable companies for your food intolerance tests. There's a lot of them which will give you very random results. Like you go twice and they'll give you different results each time, but so you'd have to look into it and spend a bit of good money, but it would save you a lot of time. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. So thanks. Probably I would like to hear a word on the terms movement and training. How do they influence each other, or how in which way are they different from each other? Can you say something about this?
Yeah, this one's interesting as well, right? It's like we touched on it a little bit earlier. So we spoke about training, your reps and sets, but then you've got movement training. So at the moment there's this culture, right? This movement culture. Like you go to Ido Portal. You go to Ido Portal and he's a movement coach, and you sign up to his online training and you give him your list of goals. And usually most people that go to him, they're like, I want a chin up, or I want a 1-arm chin up, or they give these specific strength goals, or maybe these mobility goals. Now I'm seeing more of these students doing more like floor work and stuff, like doing more actual real like movement where they're doing these flows on the floor, but it's not usually where people start from unless they have a background in it. So you ask for this program, the online training, and what do you get back? You get a program. It's like gymnastic strength training and mobility. You know, you do these sets, you do these reps, etc., and it's coming from a movement coach. So, but it is training at the same time. It's this training, and then, but this isn't what he advocates. He doesn't necessarily advocate this type of lifestyle where you're having to live in this training lifestyle. Like, yes, he wants, he usually expects people to be strong and mobile or whatever. I'm speaking for him now, and it's not right, but you understand what I'm saying. But he also very much advocates just generally people being more human, being just moving more. Like he's got loads of videos on it. You squat more, hang more, twist more, pull more, jump more, sprint more, but not necessarily go and train. So it's interesting. You can actually look at movement in both worlds. You can look at movement in the world of actual just moving day to day, your movement, your life. You're playing with your children. You're picking stuff off the floor. You're hanging on the tube. You're climbing a tree. Or you can look at movement in the training modality of movement culture as well. Okay, so what are you doing for your movement training? Oh, well, I'm working towards my splits. I'm working towards my one-arm chin-up. I'm working towards my macaco and my capoeira thing, whatever. So yeah, it's a complex one, but I think it's important for people to understand that training, like doing training, isn't enough. Doing your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hour sessions or whatever it is in the week is not enough. You need to be living a lifestyle of moving, not a lifestyle of training. Does this make sense?
Absolutely.
So, for example, maybe you are training for your one-arm chin-up, or you're training for whatever, for your legs, etc., your 2 times bodyweight squat. But what are you doing outside of your sessions? Are you sitting on the computer? Are you sitting down on TV, on the sofa, watching your TV and ordering your food online? Or, or are you still active? Are you still going out? Are you still playing? Are you in a community of people where you get to communicate and play socially and experience these things? Or, are you just doing your sets and reps and then that's it? So this is the differentiation that I would like people to see with movement and training. Yeah, have your movement training. That's great. Have a practice. Have a physical practice that you follow and you measure and you make progress. This is awesome. I love it. And that's what I help people with the online training. But also have this life where you don't need to train if you don't want to. You shouldn't feel obliged to train. You should already be strong. You should already be mobile. You should already be active. Like, the training is just an extra bonus which makes you feel good, but it's not life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can feel you, absolutely. Great way to see it, and I think a really good explanation. Thank you.
No problem.
So probably one question before we're gonna end our conversation. I would like to know from you, imagine you would die and people, in honor of your life, they would build a museum. It's your legacy museum. What would you like to look like this museum?
Oh man, that's a powerful question. That's really good. I like that. Well done. I haven't heard that before. That's really cool. Caught me by surprise. Okay. What would I want my museum of legacy to look like? Assuming these people have built this museum, whether or not I wanted them to build it. I would want it to be. I'd want it to be a playground of some sort. Yeah. I'd want it to be big enough where people could come together and learn and play with each other and learn from each other and move together, etc. I mean, Sure, I'd want some gymnastic rings. I think they're great. Yeah, maybe some ropes. Maybe just make it into like a gym, but have like a movement gym or whatever you want to call it. But and I'd want it more so. I think it's the people that attend this place, which is what I'd want it to be more important about looking like, as opposed to the objects in it. The people that would be going there, I'd want them to be going there to learn. I'd want them to be going there to move, to socialize, to play, to network. This is what I would want it to be. So, and all in like a physical and philosophical fashion, where they can think, they can develop, they can progress. This is what I'd want it to be, and probably I'd want it to be near the ocean. The ocean is huge for me. It's a big part of my life, and I love the ocean. And I think more people need to experience it as well. And I would want it to be near there. So if they want to go from the museum into the ocean, they can do their diving together and their spearfishing. It's another one of my passions. Then they can go and do this, and they can get together and have their barbecues and etc. and have their movement. Yeah, this would be it.
Sounds amazing. Fantastic. A lot of fun, community together. Yeah. Sharing these meals. Fantastic.
Yeah. Sharing meals is big for me. I like it.
I can understand. For me too.
Okay.
So great. So thank you so much for participating in my show, for sharing your thoughts, your insights, your ideas with me. It's a great honor that you took your time to be on my show. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. It was an honor to be here as well. I've never done one of these before, but I've listened to enough of them, so it's quite cool, like, actually being here and talking. I really liked your questions. They really got me to think, and make me challenge my thoughts, which is why I always like. It's always good to analyze where you're coming from, and is it good quality what you're saying and what you're answering to. And I think you're producing some good stuff here, and you're getting some good knowledge and some good information for your audience. It's very helpful. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
So just for my audience, if you have any questions, just go for it. Feel free to ask me anything you want. I hope you enjoyed this one, and then we see you next week. Bye.